Hello and welcome to Imbalid's sweet-ass presentation of some of the fundamentals of game design. Within this video, I'm going to answer the 8 sacred riddles bestowed upon me by the powers that be. That's you, Joel. You made me do this. Your actions have consequences, and it's time that you reap what you sow! The core gameplay loop is the very base of what a player is going to do throughout the game. Depending on what the gameplay is like, it might differ, but it is essentially the main set of systems or mechanics that keeps the player playing the game. As an example, let us take Dark Souls. Step 1. The player starts off by moving out to explore and find items. Step 2. On their way, they will encounter enemies that will try to halt their progress, which they can choose to avoid or defeat for souls. Step 3. Once they make their way through the entire level without dying, they will encounter a boss, and they will have to defeat it to progress, but also for a large amount of souls. And finally, step 4. Spend all those hard-earned souls to become stronger. And then you just start all over again. And that's the loop. The game loop. It's a loop that the game has a loop that The game design document has many purposes. First of all, it is where all the designing begins. It allows you to plan out the production of a game. It also lets you keep track of what that plan is. And if the plan changes, you can check the document why it did, so you don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. The game document also acts as a universal truth what the game is supposed to be, so you don't lose track of what the hell you're actually making. If there is ever an argument of that very nature, the document is always there as an impartial judge. Another jolly function is if you get cool new team members. The document can catch them up to speed on what they need to know. But it can also convey to your current team what tone and feeling things are meant to invoke. Or with images, simply show how things are meant to look. Ah yes, the SMART concept. It's about managing what you can do with the time and resources that you have. Let's start off with S. Specific. You need to come up with specific goals or tasks that need to be done. After that, you get to M. Measurable. You need to assign values to the goal, such as how much time it's going to take and what it might cost to be made, so it can be measured. After that, we get to A. A is for attainable. Consider if this is even possible. If the specific goal can be done within the time frame, is it attainable? After A, in SMART, of course we get to R. R is arguably the same as attainable, and probably squeezed in there for a cool acronym. However, there is a certain distinction to be made. Just because something is possible doesn't necessarily mean that it's a realistic goal. One way to look at this is this even worth doing? Is it gonna pay off in the end? And finally, we have the timeline. At this point, you need to put a short deadline on yourself, so that you can efficiently complete the goal or task and push yourself to make good use of your time. It's smart! It's so smart! I love it! Yeah! What is a game pitch? Well, it is a short description of what the game is, that is easy to understand and will grab the player's attention. The pitch can both be to the consumer, but it could also be to potential investors. So depending on who you pitch to, you should probably adjust it to them. For example, Risk of Rain 2 is an action-packed roguelike on a mysterious planet where you loot and shoot your way through stages in a constant race against the ever-increasing difficulty. Oh wow, that was a short one. Well, next. Ah yes, game mechanics and gameplay. They're essentially the same thing. No, wrong! You see, game mechanics are simply single instances of interactions between the player and the game. They are the building blocks. A game mechanic is every simple thing, such as pressing a button to jump, or talking to a character within the game.
You don't look hollow, far from it.
Or the UI displaying your current health. Gameplay is what you get when you put all these pieces together. It is when dynamics form, when one mechanic plays off another, to create the experience of the game. For example, enemies hitting you will reduce your health, and that will force the player to take action, using the other mechanics at their disposal. If you've done your job right, it will create interesting gameplay that will engage the player. If you've done it wrong, then I will know. I will hunt you down, and I will kiss you, you lovable goof! If it isn't already apparent, I'm a huge fan of the Dark Souls games. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the Dark Souls Blood Pool. It is both a necessary and an exciting addition to the games. I can imagine that during playtesting early on, that they discovered how frustrating it is to die more often than in other games, and players would most likely quit due to frustration for losing all their hard-earned souls. However, with the games leaving you one extra chance to retrieve them by leaving them in the spot where you died, instead of feeling frustrated that you just lost so much, you're instead motivated to keep playing to retrieve them, thus keeping you playing.
Nice.
Another favorite mechanic of mine is from the roguelike Faster Than Light. What mechanic, you ask? The doors. Now stay with me here. Doors may not seem that exciting, except for when they are. Regardless, the doors in Faster Than Light are fantastic. See, it's a fairly simple adventure that simulates a space crew on their journey through space. Overall, the game is not that complicated, but the doors do a lot. They open and they close. No, but really, this allows you to control the air levels of each room inside the spaceship. And thus, you can kill boarding enemies, you can starve fires and put them out, and if Kevin refuses to do his job, then you can refuse him the ability to breathe! And lastly, and I can't believe I did not name this one first, there is one so beautiful I wish it got an award or something. Consider difficulty in games. Ideally, what you want is the easy to play, hard to master type, as it allows new players to easily pick it up and gives them a reason to keep playing. That is why I'd like to bring up Devil May Cry. The Devil May Cry series is honestly not that hard to beat, and you could totally cheese a lot of things just by spamming the same move over and over again. However, if you do, you want to be cool, and the game tells you this. The in-game style ranking system is always visible to you and will tell you exactly how cool you are currently being, and the higher rank, the more challenging it is going to be to maintain. To me, this is the ultimate motivator in a game. It motivates you to switch up your moves, and it motivates you to experiment. And if you fail, you can simply build it up again. Unlike dying, this does not halt your progress. Even if the player just prefers progression, the reward at the end will be multiplied depending on just how stylish you manage to be. Boom! Ultimate motivator. Flow is where we want the player to be. It is the state where the player is optimally engaged, or in the zone. To achieve flow, one must balance the player's current skill in the game and the challenge that the game provides. We want to make sure to keep the player on their toes without making the game too hard. This is to avoid the player getting bored or anxious and thus keeping them in the game, hopefully immersing them in the experience. Game design patterns are simply a standardization of common concepts or problems within game design that keeps coming up. Naming and documenting these issues helps both experienced and new designers along in discussing and solving said problems and saving us all time. For example, rock, paper, scissors is one that I hate and what ruined Red Alert 3 for me. I often find this problem in real-time strategy games, where the game is reduced to produce Unit X to defeat Unit Y. Of course, this is hard to avoid in these types of games, but I'd argue that it should be more about coming up with a counter strategy involving multiple units rather than rock, paper, scissors. Another good example is the weenie, named after how Walt Disney suggested you train dogs? Ah, yes, he meant like incentivizing someone to go in a certain direction without telling them directly, like he did with his theme parks, or apparently his dogs. Well, a game that does this is Journey. Big ol' mountain with a light in the sky that makes you wonder, just what lies up there? Maybe secrets unbound, or maybe just Walt Disney holding his wiener.